I like
Oh,
it.
there we go. We're coming live. Okay. And I'm going to hit the record button here. And perfect. And I just have to give it one more second. When Zoom shares it, it keeps it to friends only. So I'm getting it to public here. And the audio works. So we're working.
Excellent.
Okay. Give me 2 more seconds. Okay, everybody. Well, good evening, and I'm here to interview this beautiful lady here, AnDrea Atherton. It says Drea on the bottom. Is that your preferred name?
It depends. I guess my business name is Andrea, and close friends call me Drea.
Beautiful. Well, she's a mindset coach, and she interviewed me on her podcast. I don't know, what was that, 2 weeks ago? And beautiful what showed up and flowed. And I wanted to hear a lot more about what she does. So I'm going to hand it over to her, and then we're going to see what kind of percolates up. There's a shit ton of energy going on right now. And we were just talking about it before the show. And I think it's probably beautiful if we share that and let other people know that they're not insane and their heads aren't going to pop off for any other reason. So go ahead, Andrea.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Paul. I so appreciate it. So, I'm a mindset coach, mind, body, spirit coach. I have 25 years experience as a experiential art therapist, yoga informed therapist, a Reiki practitioner, got all kinds of tools in my bag, but I've been helping people. We've been talking about the ascension process. I've been helping all these empaths who've been coming to me and going, what's going on? Or, feeling stuck or feeling like the outsider. I help people, get out of that stuck place, be able to start loving themselves. I also help people get clear on what they want out of relationships and, help them maneuver and find the healthiest relationship that they can for themselves and with themselves.
Beautiful. And you do a podcast. You want to talk about
Yes,
that as
thank
well?
you. Thank you for reminding me. I do a podcast. I'm the host of Love, Anarchy, the Relationship Rebellion, where we go deep about love, relationships, and dating. So that's always fun. I've had wonderful guests on there, and um, I've learned so much. I think having the podcast, I've learned so much through meeting people from Canada, and it's I'm talking to people on the East Coast, North Carolina, New Jersey, California. Was LA was one of my first podcast interviews, and I'm
Mhm.
just learning about people's gifts and perspectives, and I don't feel so alone anymore because people are out there just like today, Paul, with you, and I got on, and you're like, it's crazy. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just not me. Feeling like this is just like, okay, get it together, Andrea. Get it together, Andrea.
Mhm. Well, she said she couldn't even take notes to as to what to do, and I said it's probably perfect because I find just exactly what's needed for everybody will show up, and if we let it flow, then we're not forcing anything. So
Mhm.
beautiful. Um, you said a term I've heard other people use called yoga informed. What does that mean for you?
Before yoga therapy came about, in 2000, I became a yoga instructor after practicing for 5 years. So incorporating the mindfulness, a lot of people think of yoga as just the asana or just the poses,
Mhm.
where there's 8 limbs to yoga. And I teach meditation, I teach body awareness. With some clients, I actually incorporate, do art and yoga together too. So, and there's
Mhm.
many subtleties to that, but about getting into your body. And I found it really helpful with trauma informed therapy, people dealing with trauma and using these postures and poses and asanas to get connected to their body again.
Mhm. I believe very much in yoga.
Mhm.
I love wall yoga is one of my favorite because it gets your feet up and grounds you in a different way. Aerial yoga is another one. Um, Now you said grounding, and I think that's the most important thing is I find in my world, a lot of clients, a lot of people I'm dealing with are so far out of their body with shame, guilt, fear, trauma, etc. They're about a foot above their head.
Yeah,
So
I just see, I ask clients sometimes too, I'm like, how disconnected are you right now? How many inches would you say your head is above
mhm,
it, disconnected from your body?
mhm.
And
And go ahead.
unfortunately, you can't say, well, I'm just going to disconnect from grief or I'm just going to disconnect from fear. You disconnect from everything.
Mhm. Something I've always wanted. I used to do a lot of hot yoga, and I was just begging for an instructor that would stand up at the front and say, I want you to emote exactly what shows up without any shame or guilt. So you can make some noise, you can cry, you can, because I can remember how many times I sat curled up in a child's pose and I was just rocking inside. And I was so ashamed that I might disturb somebody beside me. But I think it would be just like that firecracker that set off a million other firecrackers. Everybody would be now given permission to go. What's your thoughts on that?
Oh my gosh, I go back to a yoga journal conference up in Estes Park, where some of the top teachers and the Java Mukti instructors were there, and we were moving in and out of heart openers and then fold heart openers. All of a sudden, everybody's like waterworks, but it felt amazing. And I've always incorporated that in my work too. And when I taught yoga, just an structural hatha yoga class, people would just come in and get in child's pose and just feel the energy of the class and or whatever pose to just feel, just to
Mm-hmm.
have a dark place to feel your emotions.
Mm-hmm. And then you're working with things like balance and breath and wiggling and wobbling, and it's playing with all your like perfection and all these things. Yoga has this beautiful way of just self mastery, finding that self mastery in that moment of just peace and accepting whatever
Yeah,
jiggles or whatever's coming.
yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
was just thinking of acceptance, and that's what I'd say. I'm like, be exactly where you are in this moment on this mat
Mm-hmm.
without any expectations, without any judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why the classes are dark because it's like we don't want to compare ourselves to other people. And if you're doing it right, even though there's no right or wrong way to do it, it's like it's a very solitude. You're connected to the energy of the other people, but it's a very internal process.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Agreed. Okay, so you use all these gifts that you've got, this training, etc., to undercut it all. What are you seeing is the baseline that's going on in most people that are your clients? What do you got to work with them? So give them some ideas of where the dirty bits are that they got to kind of start to look at.
Yeah, well, people lately have been coming in, obviously with COVID. It's kind of fallout right now. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's like during COVID when I was coaching and counseling, people talked about everything but because it was too much for our brains. And I think finally now people are starting to grieve and kind of integrate that.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, a lot of empaths are attracted, a lot of people going through existential dilemmas
Mm-hmm.
um, and Paula, as we talked about earlier, things are speeding up and healing is changing. And so, being a coach as well, it's like I've got to pick up the pace with my clients too.
And
And
you're talking about the cognitive, the feeling, the thought, not physical symptoms of COVID type stuff. You're
no,
talking
no,
about
no,
what the control the two.
I'm talking about the emotional reaction and the grief
Mm-hmm.
and all the, finally sorting through the fears that emerged. And then on top of that, all the questions that emerge, like, am I, feeling stuck? What do I do next? Or like, I don't want to be in this marriage anymore, or I don't want to be at this job anymore. I can't do it anymore is a lot here, but I don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm. So are you finding it's breaking up relationships, or it's giving an opportunity where stuff that was unsaid before is starting to bubble out and the mirrors are starting to show? What are you seeing from that
I
perspective?
just think there's a lot more clarity on each of our lives and what needs to change or what needs to be communicated with our partner, our employer, or ourselves. Like,
Mm-hmm,
um, that we've been so busy before we stopped.
mm-hmm,
And so I have colleagues, I have friends like who are not necessarily like going right out and getting a divorce, albeit some people have. Divorce rates have gone up, and so have the amount of babies that are have been born, but that people are actually finding new ways of communicating and moving through and changing their relationship
mm-hmm,
to a higher space.
mm-hmm.
A
And
lot of brave people.
pardon me, sir.
A lot of brave people, like kind of like I'm whatever comes up, I'm
Mhm.
I'm staying in.
And a lot of people talk about the virus causing all this separation and isolation and depression and all these kind of things, which are all bad things because there's suicide rates and other things going on. But at the same time, there's a deeply kind of spiritual component. It's like you're not talking to your friend all day long, or you're not going to the bar and getting drunk with them all the time, or you're not going and doing all these bypassing things anymore. You got no choice but either look at your husband, wife, whatever's going on in your life at this moment, and you're stuck in your home, you're isolated, sometimes you're lockdowns, and it's given this other gift of finding self-love, because you're not getting it through all those other things. But now when you're like constantly locked with your spouse, you can't bypass the fact that you're not communicating. You can't bypass the fact that they're violent or they're in addictive behaviors. And you're getting a real snapshot of who's doing their work, who's ready to do more work, and to deal with that. Is that something that you're seeing? I
Yeah,
definitely
yeah, I have a episode on my podcast about the effects of COVID, and that ironically a lot of people who like were out there dating online decided I'm just going to focus on me.
am.
So many people who were like out there, you know, although, felt disconnected because they had to be alone, maybe single people, but finding connections in other ways as well, not just going out and trying to find a significant other. But I'm really just finding people are a lot less attached to the way things were and going with their feelings more and allowing things to just happen.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think that ability to attach to other people, to love outside yourself, was even permitted in the mechanisms we had. You couldn't date a person without worrying that they're going to kill you from having a virus or whatever. And the attachment, you're always distant in your own houses. I think it started to transform love from what it was into something like, fuck, I got to deal with my shit. It's right here and it's present with me, and I got to do something.
And that is like after COVID, people talking about feeling so disconnected, got connected, you're right, with themselves. And now that's my passion, like with the podcast and with talking to people like meeting you. It's been like all of a sudden I'm meeting people from my soul tribe. And and I found connections and ways, and I've tried to lay out the podcast so it was conversational, so people would feel like they were sitting down with us and being a part of the conversation and just wanting to connect and finding new ways to connect.
So you created Love Anarchy as a kind of like a community of like-minded people where they could gather, hear your perspectives, and grow. So what would be that perfect community that after all this virus stuff comes out, people are loving themselves? What would you like to see? What would you think is be more healthy from the old way to reprogram and reset?
Well, I love the idea of community, and when I've been like meditating on the future or things like that, I see myself as like a part of a retreat, with a group of tribe people, and and trying out new ideas and trying out new things and using some of the old modalities. I not old, but as a part of healing and using them in different ways
Mhm.
and playing with it.
And play is the big thing, right? Because everything is so serious in our old 3D reality. It's all about finding the one and getting married and making these big decisions. But really, as we start to honor ourselves, we got to have, I don't know how else to describe it, but playtime with other people, intimacy time. And I'm not talking about jumping into sexuality or whatever. I'm talking about going deep with that person, sharing your wounds and maybe some of your bad stuff, leading with your bad stuff. So you don't have to sit here and say, oh, I'm afraid you're going to find out I was incest as a child or something happened. And you prejudged yourself, where really you just want to find somebody that you can really talk deep with. And then you can start to say, okay, well, these are my wounds and these are the things I want to work on. Is these things that maybe resonate with you? And what I find is a lot of those people, they're like vibration. So they actually are pulling, they have an attraction already, and they're maybe not dealing with it for that reason, like because they want the one or whatever. Well, no, I want to do my personal work with somebody that's willing to do that same personal work. And that's where the community comes in.
And I think that's where people are opening up, like with my podcast. I started in July, and that was my point. And then my putting my energy out there, I'm attracting more people in who have walked the walk, talked the talk, and have done this healing and are sharing with people on the podcast their ideas or their personal experience. And I think the stories are so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And when I talk to, and I really feel like men are really waking up right now. And as I'm meeting and like men are the ones stepping up. Yes, I want to be on the podcast. Yes, I want to tell my story. And then I talk to other men and they're like, oh my gosh, that man was amazing on that podcast. And like, I remember I was talking to a friend who lives down in Denver and he was saying Jimmy Addison was on there, and he does now. I can't remember what it's called, but he creates songs for them, song within. And
Mm-hmm.
we did a quick one at the end, and my friend said, I teared up. That was so powerful. Him sharing this gift. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, and there's so many of them coming out all over the place, and we don't get a chance to see it. We don't know if it's a gift or if it's a curse sometimes. And then we share it with somebody and it's just like opens. And it's just like, wow, we all have some version of this inside, but now you need permission. Because a lot of those things that really teared people up or whatever might seem weird to some people. And we got to get back to, no, this is normal.
Yeah, and I feel like even with old friends, I'm having deeper, more meaningful conversations with, and people are getting over their fears of sharing parts of themselves
Mhm,
and
mhm,
really coming into their own in that way. And it's such a beautiful thing.
mhm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and especially with men, who aren't allowed to show feelings, aren't allowed to do this. It's like emotions are is a human experience. They're navigational tools.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And there's been a period for so long, like thousands of years, probably even longer, where men haven't been able to share their emotion, their their deep frustration, their deep sadness, and then they've been also told they're all part of the patriarchy. They're all part of this thing that demented everyone. No, there's a whole separate piece that named that and named feminism and named all these things that got all twisted and turned and made everybody confused about themselves and their roles. And
Yeah, I feel like we've been brainwashed, and I've said this on a lot of podcasts, is that it's the commercialism. People want to make money off us. When it comes to the, well, let's make them think this, and then they need to purchase this.
mm-hmm,
Or when like online dating sites, remember at the beginning, we're like, oh, we look at all these couples that got together. Now, eHarmony is one like that, but that isn't anymore. It's like, oh, keep them on as long as we can so we can sell them things.
Oh, don't even get me going there. Like some of those dating websites, they'll keep your profile on there for 5 years and pretend that you're not responding, but three-quarters of the people aren't even paying for a subscription anymore. What does that do to our, it just makes us more wanting to go and pay more and all this kind of stuff. And really, they're not even in integrity. Those aren't even people that you could possibly, I found a friend on a dating site the other day, and it's like, I just did a free trial for a month about 5 years ago. What the hell is my profile doing up? I canceled that account.
Oh my
Well,
gosh. Wow, that's scary.
and it's happening all over the place.
Yeah,
So,
so it's like like what's really real with it? And people complain about the experience, but I'm like, I don't, yes, I think it's affecting people, but
mhm,
I think it's hard for us to really look at what's behind it
mhm.
and the greed and stuff that is behind it all.
Well, I feel these energies, we'll get back to that, but tying in this, we are breaking up the collective level of bullshit
We
that's
are, I
gone with
agree, yes.
relationship. Go ahead.
Yeah, I totally agree. And talking about seeing clearly since COVID, um, really being able to sort that out now and what is brainwashing and BS and, commercialism and people wanting your money.
Mhm. Especially around relationships, especially around love, especially around, well, look at things even like Valentine's Day and all these commercialized things that have nothing to do with love, but it's all about giving gifts, right? It's give them the flowers, give them the chocolate, do the proposal or whatever on that day. And there's nothing special about Valentine's Day other than somebody chose that day and put a heart on it. And whatever tradition you have, now you got to put out some money to show you love somebody.
Well, the same with engagement rings. All those commercials is like, give her the gift of forever. And it shames a man if he can't like get a
Mm-hmm,
big enough ring because they're showing a huge rock on there,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
and if you can't, then, keep working because,
mm-hmm.
you don't deserve it.
Well, and you're talking about rocks that are artificially price increased by them holding back the supply. There's way more than there is in the market. So yeah, it's insane. So okay, so let's get back to ascension energies. So
Yeah.
what are you feeling right now? What's present that's your biggest work, or what's really gnawing at you?
I just think like the healing is speeding up. I
Mm-hmm,
feel like I get in the groove of it and it just seems to go a little faster and a little faster and
mm-hmm,
um it started back I'm trying to think which oh 8/8 portal I think.
mm-hmm,
And like each month and and like it's like amping up like each
mm-hmm,
full moon. I do full moon rituals too. And so I'm very in sync with that energy and try to use that energy to help with the healing and the understanding of it. But it's like then we're coming into eclipse season and I can just feel the intensity. And like 11/11, I was like shot like I felt like a rocket. And I'm like,
mm-hmm,
and I can't say where are we gonna land
mm-hmm,
because it's just like you said, just breathe through it.
mm-hmm. Well,
So
do you
yeah.
ever get that where your nervous system is just like shorting out and you're just like almost epileptic in and you're feeling it inside and you just don't know what's going on? Do you get that sometimes? You said a
Oh
rocket,
yeah,
so
yes, I totally do. And thank goodness for meditation because that's it can bring me back. A lot in salt baths, any grounding things, it
mm-hmm.
just snowed here today, so I can't really go out and put my feet in the grass.
Oh
But
wow.
I would, some days we have in Colorado's like that.
Mm-hmm.
But gr-
Well,
constantly grounding.
constantly. Well, I don't know. Some people follow. There's a guy named Jason Estes, and he talks about these data point influxes, and we're going somewhere between 2,000 and 4,000 right now, and I can feel them throughout the day. Like 9:30 Mountain Time today on the 18th, it was just like I I didn't know what to do with myself. I just wanted to run away from my body. And I'm breathing and gulping in your middle of traffic or something. There's really nothing you can do, but just, and, and it just feels like I described it in my live this morning. It's like a balloon. The first time you blow up the balloon, you're having to stretch all the rubber particles apart, and it just feels like all your myofascia and everything are crunching. And then once the balloon's expanded and it goes back down, it's like double its old size. But that's how our nervous system and our electrical system is going. Go ahead.
Do you know what I wonder if we are in the 5D right now, but we really can't take it all in?
I'd agree.
And that's since the 1111 portal. I'm like, I'm in the 5D. I'm like,
Well, we're bouncing right on the edge.
yeah, well, but nothing is working like the work, like the baby boomer motto, work to get it done. It's not working. And
and
in the past, I've been a pretty good, like, let's just, put the grit in, and it just makes me tired now. I'm like, it doesn't work.
and nothing's manifesting, and everybody around you that has any lower vibration is just tearing at you or want to say something really triggering or angry to get everybody's work sorted out. Do you feel that too?
I feel like all lower vibration is just like, like
Okay,
away.
lucky you.
I just feel like people are just like dropping out, out of,
Good.
I don't even have to do anything. It's like any lower vibrational stuff just somehow is just vibrating out.
Yeah. They're still poking and screaming. I look at it as our genetic lineage has all these people in our life and they're lower vibration, and there's all these like dark forces that are trying to just stop this and doing throwing anything at you to get you to shut up or die or whatever.
Yep.
And the last gasp is less and less and less now, but I feel every once in a while they'll come through my parents or something will come through a friend, and it's like clients, it's like she blew up. I asked to be paid on time, and she like freaking thermonuclear meltdown and then started tearing everything that we'd ever built apart. And this is a woman that said she was Jesus's daughter for her entire life, and I'm like, where did that come from? I was just standing up for myself one time and being nice, and I'm seeing a lot of that. But it's also a blessing because it's like, fuck, I definitely didn't want that in my life. So you
Yeah.
said it's happening less and less. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I too, I'm seeing the anger, the road rage, and the dissociation, and like everybody's like really short fused. Um, a client of mine was in a car accident on I-25, which is our super 75-mile-an-hour super speedway, and a woman had hit her, and the woman gets out of the car and says, don't hurt me, because she was so afraid of road rage. The
Mm-hmm.
woman, and she comes out, she's like, I'm not gonna hurt you. But feeling that energy and experiencing it in smaller things, I can imagine. And she was old, she was an older woman, 75, 80, and
Yeah.
she was petrified,
Mm-hmm.
and that this woman was gonna come out and berate her, or who knows, shoot
But
her.
but look at the final lessons we're pulling in to poke us in all the really scared places. And there's a lot of people participating in that right now. So
And I believe anger expressed appropriately is a gift.
absolutely.
Anger is a gift because anger is where your boundary is.
Mm-hmm.
And where you let other people cross over the boundary, you can get angry, or where other people have crossed over that boundary.
Mm-hmm.
And people are getting really clear about that too now. I mean, I definitely am
Mm-hmm.
feeling that.
Well, and maybe it's more for men, but
It's
the next step after anger is rage, and rage is our power. And rage in you will not effing do that to me ever again, and having that power and that self-expression and the boom. But rage over is like trying to kill the person or wanting to fight
Yeah,
them.
it's just a different expression. You can feel it and express it in a healthy way through art, through yoga, through breath work, through exercise, through talking it out. But when you push it, push it, push it, it can that's when it explodes
Mhm.
and is destructive. But and I've been working with a lot of women on embracing anger too
Mhm.
and saying, "Oh, did that person cross your line? Yeah, but but I was supposed to be nice. I'm
Mhm.
supposed, so
And we lock that piece of ourselves up. That's scary. Oh, that's not permitted around here, little girl. If you get mad at me ever again, I'm gonna beat your ass, or whatever your parents might have taught you. And now you're like, it's scary to be that or whatever, and you can never cross into your power because it was taken from you because somebody else was uncomfortable with it. Well, right now you have to have somebody else be uncomfortable with your boundary if you're not going to get stepped on.
mhm. And
And
and when you don't have boundaries and you give, 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 and finally decide, here's my boundary, people don't like that. And they'll get angry at you for not giving like you used to.
absolutely.
And the people, and I think a lot of my clients get confused about that. And I'm like, well, you change the dance steps. Let's say in your family of origin,
Mhm.
people get confused and they can't siphon off of you anymore, your energy.
Mhm. And it goes both directions. If you've been giving a long time, all of a sudden they'll resent you out of nowhere and hate you and just unload on you because you've been helping them too much. You've been giving them. They couldn't hit bottom. And I think that's the biggest curse of an untrained empath is they think they can put a little piece of themselves with everybody. And I've really learned to teach empaths. It's like, if you feel sorry for anyone, go please look at that. Why are they not powerful enough to deal with their own shit? Why do you have to be with them? I learned an experience where one day I realized 30% of myself was with my brother. I'm sitting in meditation. I'm like, what the hell's going on? Well, he had a nervous breakdown. He was blah, 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 blah. And so I went and had a talk with him and I said, there. You can handle this. You're going to deal with it. It's all going to be fine. And that morning he talked to me and said things weren't going well. The next morning he phones me up almost 24 hours to the time. And he says, I don't know what happened yesterday afternoon after we talked. I feel so free. I feel like I can move forward. And it was just like, I never told him this, but I knew that I was holding him up. I was keeping him from finding his bottom, and I was literally like smothering him with this thing, and I was feeling his emotions and I was feeling like shit. Nobody won, but we never realized that we were this powerful.
Well, too, and we need this pain to motivate us to
Mhm.
make the necessary changes. And when us empaths try to save somebody, we're
Mhm.
doing just the opposite.
Mhm.
Because as empaths, we feel what other people are experiencing. And sometimes we think we say, oh, we're doing it for the other person, but it's really for ourselves. Like, you get your crap together so I can feel better.
It's like living vicariously. Yep, you're living through another person. And how many empaths, and this may be a big surprise for people, are you sitting there and out of the blue, you're feeling like these big wallops of emotion and you don't know what it is? You're going to get some clues. Oh, it's your sister. Oh, it's your ex, or whatever, but you're not close enough to them to know. But you're feeling crazy and you're like, why is my energy all over the place? Well, only 40% of you is actually in your body. The rest is out helping everybody else. Do you think you can do your shit? Do you think you can sort out shit? Until you get all that back and get all your soul fragments and your heart fragments back, you're doing the work for everybody. And we don't even know it. Go ahead.
I have a tool that I teach my clients.
Mhm.
Think of our aura, our chakra system. Our aura is out here, and you're walking down the street, you're fine, and all of a sudden this flash of fear, or anger, or something comes up, and empaths get confused and think it's theirs sometimes. But you can ask, "Is this mine?" You're gonna get a yes or no.
Mhm.
And then it allow and imagine it moving out into the corner of the universe and exploding. And if it doesn't explode and it comes back, it's yours. But if
Mhm.
it does, and then wish it well to go back to the person so they can take care of it.
Mhm.
And empaths too want you clear that energy around you. And you could do it immediately. Yes, no, it's mine. Send it up there.
Mhm.
And especially right now with all the energies going on, it's important that you do that. And then surround yourself in pink lights.
Mhm.
So anything that goes out is interpreted as through love, and
Mhm.
anything that comes in is interpreted through the love.
Beautiful. Well, and we have other superpowers we don't even talk about. In shamanism, we talk about this one point, and in shamanism, there's these little tentacles that come out, and they can have hooks and feelers and arrows and stuff on them. If you ever went to go in a meeting room and you're feeling, oh, there's something weird going on in there. This is really heavy. You have this ability to go and inquire into anything, but we don't realize it. And then we get out of control of these things. And then you're using these ones with arrows and you're like shooting your partner with them to try and hurt them. And because now you're feeding off of these people, but you can also use ones with little suckers, one with just feeling and just testing. But we have to learn to get back to ourselves. So they teach you this process of tying all these feelers off in this slip knot so that, wow, this is me. I'm not sucking off my girlfriend. I'm not sucking off my partner or my parents or whatever. And then you start to really feel what is you. And most of us don't even know what is us. If we're a foot above our head and you're feeling stuff in your throat and you're suckered on to somebody else, you're feeling them more than you. And we're not even sovereign anymore.
Yeah.
Do you teach about sovereignty as well?
I do, but I don't necessarily call it that, but yeah, it's like it all comes back to you and
Absolutely.
your center. And know what was coming to mind is like you make me feel. And in a way, people who are empaths do experience that, but it's also the empath's responsibility to step back. And I always think about creating a little space,
Mm-hmm.
creating, just step back from that person, create a little space to see really what's true there. And
Mm-hmm.
these people who are angry or can't um, keep their emotions at bay
Mm-hmm.
because it's been buried so long are the people that need love the most.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And they're blindly opening their auric field. They're blindly opening their heart to try and get it and giving theirs away freely, and they're lost because everybody received but nobody gave, or vice versa. It's usually an opposite, right? the the biggest one that I'm trying to call people back to is the fact that we're all fragments of God, source, whatever, a soul. I don't know if you've ever read the Course in Miracles, but they have this thing called the mad thought, where basically we were all God, everything was perfect, everything was fun, and then one part of God said, "What if we were separate?" And to create separation, all of a sudden it happened instantly, and it was just like, oh, what the fuck just happened? And then this thing called the ego came in between us and God because we had to be separated. So it was shame and guilt and make us feel low so that we weren't worthy of being part of God, or else we just get sucked back into the. So now we have, well, what, 8 billion people almost on this planet, and we're all struggling for sovereignty, but we're living in this collective way. So we're mushed into everybody else's energy. So the self-mastery of this lifetime is to find your sovereignty. And that's where some of the Temple of Isis and sacred sexuality stuff I was talking about, where you go into sexual union with another person and you join with them. Your two bodies come together and you become God in that moment. And then to find who you are again afterwards, minus all the labels and the definitions and the old beliefs. And then you go to these points where somebody holds space and you burn off all your traumas, and then vice versa for the masculine or the feminine. And then when you get finished, the last one is you, without any held space, you join together with another person, and then you find yourself and you know exactly what is sovereignty. You're not dumping your bad stuff into the woman or man, and nobody's feeling bonded or attached afterwards. You're coming back and saying, this is a living physical portion of God, and you're a physical portion of God. And once we learn that we all have our own realities and our own worlds, and when they cross over, it's based on our beliefs and our definitions and past experiences. And it just simplifies things so much, because now it's not about our status and all this kind of stuff. It's all about what we're knowing of ourselves and how confident we are in our sovereignty. It's not like, I can only be whole if you're part of my life, because I'm not whole in the first place. Well, there's license for disaster.
Yeah, and I think this ascension process has us, like I said, the clarity that's come up really gives us a chance to do that. Like I said, I feel like we're healing at breakneck speeds, and um,
Mhm.
and like I'm thinking of all the shadow work that I've done that I thought, I had done way before, and it keeps coming up, and I'm like I was just saying, my divine masculine and feminine came back up again, and I'm like, really? Because it's like another, upping the ante, another
Mhm.
level of healing.
And honestly, I think in a lot of times we healed it, but the collective hadn't finished healing it. So we ended up getting extra helpings and we're dealing with the collective version. I did a healing experience. Holy crap, it feels like a week ago. It was yesterday with a woman. And in that came out rage and all these different emotions from both sides. And she's like welcoming me into my rage. And it wasn't even specifically for me, but I went there because it felt right. And then she's like, holy shit, you were just like losing your shit here. But I felt so safe. And I felt so beautiful because I was holding space for that rage. And then her tears came afterwards. And then there was this like collective shame at lack and rape and all this kind of stuff that just came through us. We didn't choose that. Those weren't our personal experiences, but it was just like this needed to be expressed at some level. And it's looking for any conduit of people that are willing to open. And you got a beautiful young helper there.
Yeah, this is my little Velcro dog. Yes, this is
Velcro.
Audrey.
Well, lots of love there.
She is pure love. Look at her.
Absolutely. And is it cream or white? It looks like white on the screen, but
But nope, she's white. She's a all white
beautiful.
Jack Russell Terrier. Yeah,
Oh, and Jack Russell even so smart and wow, pure light,
pure. Yeah,
beautiful.
she's sweet. So yeah, but I'm thinking about the illusions too. That fear is an illusion. Love
Hmm.
is the only real power, the
Absolutely.
only thing that's going to save us, but it's the fear that we think we're protecting ourselves with.
And it's the lack of love that creates a fear or the lack of feeling safe. And we're just over living it over and over and over again, our wound.
Yeah, and then by putting it out there, like, I want this, but I'm not going to be vulnerable.
Hmm.
Or I don't even know myself to put it there and I'm scared of it. So
Hmm.
obviously this person's going to be scared of it too. And
Hmm.
there comes that ego, that the mask of,
Hmm.
well, people will like this and people will
Hmm.
respond to that. And
Hmm.
the other lie that you were saying is that we are separate.
Hmm.
I've had that profound feeling lately too. That's kind of come on, like lately, dreaming. I'm like in other realms every night, like with a big epiphany every, whether I know it or not, like later down the way, it's like all this information is coming in. But feeling that and remembering that like God is everything, and that we are all connected, and the only reason we separate is because of fear, which is fear is false evidence appearing real.
Hmm. And ego is our primary source of that. Like I said, that separation at the beginning with the mad thought. The ego can only keep you in control when you're in shame, in fear, in doubt, and in uncertainty. So that was late last week was huge ego stuff. And everybody's like, oh, I got to kill my ego and I got to have an ego death and all this kind of shit. Bullshit. The ego is going to be part of you for the rest of your life. It's the only thing that is keeping you from just like immediately going back to God. But it has a purpose as well. You have to have wants and desires and want to be better, but not in a hurtful or like fear-based, lack-based mentality, right? So
Yeah, and that's and a lot like, but getting to know ego, and that's the beauty of meditation. Is
mhm,
people say, well, what are you supposed to do? Have a blank mind? I'm like, no, just be non-reactive and just experience what's
That's,
happening. And when you know what's going on in there,
mhm,
then your mind doesn't have control. You have control.
mhm,
Your higher self can
mhm,
say, oh, that's just this, or that's just
mhm,
that fear, or that's just,
mhm,
um, yeah. So when people ask me that question, do they say, well, I just got to get a blank mind? I'm like, no.
mhm. Well,
Yeah.
and in my world, I put my ego on an advisor role rather than the leader role. And yeah, he can come up from the side and he can say, oh, well, you're going to get hurt or they're winning or whatever. And your other side is like, no, in my heart, this feels really good. We're going to try it a new way.
Well, and listening to those parts too,
Mhm,
and saying, oh, asking your ego, well, why do you feel that way? Because I always imagine the ego as, holding the carrot right in front of your nose. Oh, you're right there. Just keep going. You're gonna get love, or you're gonna get this, or you're gonna, get the money, or you're gonna get the girl, or you're gonna get, you know, your dream. But the ego also an ego wants to keep you safe. It
it's
doesn't
protecting you.
want you to take risks.
Yep. And the only frame of reference it has is past experiences. And he's going to validate every past experience saying you're not worthy, you're not good enough. So you stop. And that's what kills you over time. That's what slows you down and creates that fear in your mind every time. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this energy we're going through, I'm like, do you feel stuck right now? I
Mm-hmm.
feel like the opposite of stuck, and I think it's like right before COVID, I did a moon ceremony, and we could sense we were trying to talk about what we wanted to create or release and stuff, and we kept coming up blank, and we didn't know why. And then 2 months later, we were like, oh, that's why we couldn't do anything. But it's been kind of the energy's been moving up since we've been out of lockdown and like increasing little by little. And the crazy solar flare we had today and all the energies that
Mm-hmm.
are shifting, it's kind of physical proof that it's happening too.
Mm-hmm. And I really see, like I said before, the balloon expanding. So I'm taking on more love, more possibility, more whatever. And it feels like you said that crushing on your chest is literally tearing open your myofascia and all these things that are part of your parasympathetic nervous system trying to protect you from all the bad experiences you had. That's all fear. And saying, no, your natural space is not fear. Your natural space is cracking open and allowing possibility. And we have so small of a possibility now, we're kind of trapped.
Yeah. And things are not working the same
Nope.
way at all, and it's like letting go. And I'm thinking one of my moon ceremonies, one of the women who was a regular there, oh, goodness gracious, her, who's a regular there said, oh, I'm going to pull a card. It's going to say, let go more. And when she finally surrendered, like the next time, she's like, I got this, we don't realize when we're not letting go of things. It's like, okay, universe, you can have this and this and this, but I'm hanging on to this. I'm hanging on to that.
Mm-hmm.
Ego wants the control of that. And
Mm-hmm.
really surrendering to this feels very intense.
Well, and the universe will find a way to rip it out of your hands in every way, shape, or form. I can look at house and money and my business, and it was like, no, that isn't the way it was supposed to be. So now you got to go live almost homeless and take your money away and take your clients away. And I'm like, what the fuck did I do wrong? I'm just trying to feel safe a little bit. Well, I still feel safe in what's lesser, but now I see none of those things are really making me safe. They're an anchor around my head. Like a big house is $3,000 of expenses, and a business is a bunch of taxes and client bullshit. And afterwards, you're just like, okay, what I was really meant is to do this inner work and find myself and choose. It might sound boring to some people, but fuck it, you know it yourself. It's intense. You're just like, dragged through the gutter and you're like almost vomiting in bed one night. And then the next day you're just like on cloud nine because I moved through some shit.
The 1111 portal, I had such a crappy week. And I really didn't like, I'm like, I didn't want to do a ritual, but I was feeling
Mhm.
like pushed to do it. And like, and I just like, I'm like, well, I'm going to do so. I can't make one up myself, or I don't want to go back. And I found somebody else's and I wrote it down as like a 5-step process. It's like, and by the end of it, it's like journaling for 11 minutes, picking 3 main feeling words out of it, um, and then writing affirmations for each of those about what steps you're going to take in
Mhm.
order to do that. And my mood switched significantly. I'm like, it was like I was in a totally different energetic space
Mhm.
after I did. Then that's why I love ritual. Sometimes it's not that intense, but I guess when you are hurting so bad, the relief feels so good. But it was like, and since I feel like that was such a huge change, but I needed that pain. I needed to kick and scream and really feel that pain in order to transmute it.
Mhm. And that's the whole process. And once we get down to understanding that everything's for us, not to us, because that pain and that suffering is making you look at something you're not looking at, and the tearing things away, and other things are saying, oh well, my arms are aching, and oh, is it really my house I'm holding on to, or whatever. But we're taught that's the only thing that's going to keep us alive, or whatever. And then you start to just get really quiet and you just start to listen, and there's a ton of messages there. There's a like hurts and wounds, and until you can get that space, you can do that journaling, you can open to it. Because outside it's busyness. Like business to me is busyness. It's just like you're doing something to make a whole bunch of money to keep yourself busy with other people, but you're really not looking at yourself.
But
You get
then it's
absorbed.
but when trying to make the money, you're in lack too.
Exactly.
I want, I grasp, I want love.
Uh-huh.
I'm chasing after money. I'm chasing after the home.
Uh-huh.
Perpetuated by the brainwashing. This will make you happy.
Uh-huh.
The Tesla, the car,
Uh-huh.
the sports car, the house,
Uh-huh.
the 2.5 kids, and they're in each, hoping each thing, and it doesn't make you happy.
Uh-huh.
Happiness comes from inside.
Uh-huh. Exactly. And it's a vibration, and it's I spoke about it this morning. It's ascension isn't what they told us. It's not like poof and you
Oh, I
float
was
up.
kind of Paul, I wanted it that way. I was kind of
Well,
daydreaming about it like that.
and how's that worked out for you?
I don't have a choice. Guess so. But
Well, I had a friend that said, and this was huge to me. I think it's part of the dark control that ascension is this moving out of your body and leaving this earth and this planet. That's what they want you to do. They want you to transcend and go back and be a soul and stop messing with the shit here because you're really fucking things up. So transcending or ascension is now dealing with all the control shit, looking at every piece of their control and their mind bending and their mistruths and saying, I'm making a choice of different. Love hasn't anything to do with attachment. Love has everything to do with loving myself. And then I'm going to vibrate in a better alternative. And then all of a sudden you're going to climb up the ladder. You're going to do your work on this one because now you've attracted somebody that has rape trauma or something that's similar to yours. And then you work through it and then you move up to the next one. And then you get your twin flames and your divine unions and all the money flows. But if you don't accept and inner master all the things that have been holding you back, and that includes lineage trauma and all this other shit that's really demented and you don't even know why you're feeling it, that's ascension. That's coming into a full awareness of whatever's going on with your light and your choices and making new ones because now you've opened to new possibility, open to new truth. And that's where the happiness and the passion and the excitement come because now we know, and we know why we felt bad and know why we were pleasing and know why. Because if you don't know that, it's going to diffuse you and short you out every time.
and it gets overwhelming because talking about the transgenerational trauma that moves down too, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is all on my shoulders and I have to take care of it. And it's
Mhm.
but it's still, even if you deny it, it's still there.
Mhm.
And
And it'll
I
eat you
feel
alive.
past lives healing. And another thing that's really come up in my shadow work is this really deep fear that was really buried down, and it was through the generations of women too in my family, is the fear of being a woman, being like, I read, I've had past life regressions, being burned at the stake, you know and then I think about like the feminist movement and all, all the hate and the energy coming after that, and I'm like, and then I realized how that fear manifested through my generations too. I very on my paternal side, very strong women who emasculated their husbands.
Mhm.
And it made sense why women are moving toward that, because they're, they don't feel safe. So they step into that role that women aren't supposed to be all of. And how exhausting and draining and toxic that is.
And how angry it makes the women and how angry it makes the men. And everybody's just like, and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like, and two, probably my masculine is like, I'm not scared. I'm not scared of anything. Bring it
Mhm.
on. And then when I started sinking into my fears and really embracing them and sitting with them, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's my divine feminine that is freaking scared.
And how are you going to solve that? By having a strong divine masculine, or to find a strong actual masculine figure that can now hold you and say, I'm not going to do that to you. I'm not going to repress you. I'm not going to control you. And you're not going to do the same back. And now all of a sudden, this beautiful safety comes. And then that woman can return to her natural state, which every woman's begging to do, but she's now stuck in such a masculine role, she doesn't know what to do.
But I feel like I said, I'm sensing
Mm-hmm.
that these masks, like, when you were talking about that, I'm like, gosh, I know so few men, but I'm just watching it, and I'm watching men want to understand and learn it right now. And I'm so excited because I feel like unfortunately, the feminine have been trying to carry both, and they're both exhausted
Mm-hmm.
in themselves.
So my inner guidance says the right men are waiting for an invitation. Because I'll tell you right now, a woman in her masculine and trying to have a cockfight with a woman that's got a bigger one than you, we as men are hiding in our feminine. And we look weak and we look scared. But that's the only safe place to approach a woman that's really feeling unsafe, is to be as close to feminine as them. But all we need is a woman that knows her boundaries as a man or whatever, but we need an invitation, a soft, nurturing invitation to say, I really need this depth of a man to approach. And I'm willing to set my boundaries and set other things, but in an open way. And you will just see this beautiful flower open. And you've already got your masculine traits. So you're going to be able to even nurture him in some of the spots where maybe that's weak, or maybe your toxic is coming up and he's going to come back and say, that's very toxic masculine. Try it this way. And then there's this magic of trust and the seldom invitation woman for anything. Sexuality, for loving, for kisses, it's all supposed to be initiated. And you want to know how many times we've been charged with rape or other things because we initiated, we couldn't read the energy. And now we're terrified of moving forward in a open hearted way
Mhm.
to meet you exactly with what you're asking for. But I'm just saying this so that women start to understand that it's a shared thing. We've both fucked ourselves up and
Well,
both.
and I know the women I see are exhausted, and they want that.
Mhm,
Although it's vulnerable to admit
mhm,
that you're like, I want to surrender and I want the
Mhm,
divine masculine
mhm.
to take that role, and so I can relax.
And I think the place for that is that 3 months relationship container we talked about last time.
Yes, it is, and I love that.
Mhm. We're building a space where we can go back and we don't have to worry about the other person running away because they got triggered for 3 months. And if you can't get down to a level that something's healing in 3 months, you're beating around the bush as far as I'm concerned. Um, we should do a whole another live on that
You know
topic.
what? And I've been thinking about that, and I used the last podcast I did on the verbal communication,
Mhm,
as well as the nonverbal cues, how to get your point across
mhm,
in a relationship to your loved one. But I talked about somebody else had a 24-hour rule in there, but it was different than mine. And I
mhm,
can't, no, I can't recall. Oh, if you're mad, the one they had was if you're mad or really infuriated at your significant other, wait 24 hours and see if it's your stuff or their stuff.
mhm, mhm.
But our 24-hour rule is, what do you want to explain it, Paul?
Oh, in this one, well, you create a relationship container. You've committed for 3 months to always deal with whatever shows up. But the minute you're triggered, you agree to a 24-hour step away. And I'm not saying you shack up with a person, you're living in the same bed. No, you have to go back to your house, your space. You shouldn't be connecting that quickly because it gives you no safe corner. A lot of times it's like a 1 bedroom apartment. And where do you go when you're really pissed at your partner to go and sit in awareness of yourself? You got to go back into a container you feel safe with.
Yeah, and that 24-hour rule will keep from people feeling abandoned.
Mm-hmm.
Like when people just leave, like because they're afraid and triggered and just leave,
Mm-hmm.
and there's no communication to the partner, the other person feels abandoned. So that
Mm-hmm.
rule that rule's set in place.
Well, and that rule works in 2 ways. First, it's like, holy frick, I feel safe enough to say stop. We've invoking the 24-hour rule, but it also forces them to be pulled back in to have the discussion at the end of the 24 hours because a lot of people will freaking postpone and masturbate with it in their brain or whatever, rather than coming in and just having that conversation first. And the process I design, it's like, okay, after the 24-hour rule, here's just like a small 1 pager. Here's how you're going to engage it. When I said stop, this is what I felt. And you're not actually to talk about the other person and what they did. You only talk about what your feelings were and what was triggered and why. And then they can respond and say, okay, well, when you said stop, you scared me and I felt like my mother was abandoning me again. And all of a sudden this beautiful truth comes out because both were just like terrified of having that reoccur. And these energies came and they wanted to fucking hurt and get back at mom or get back at the abandonment wound, when really, okay, everybody's protected now, step away. And the woman's got something and the man's got something, and they both are equally triggered. And now you've like, okay. And then when you come back and you recommunicate it, it's not like, when you did this to me or whatever, and I felt blah, 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 blah. You blamed. What's in this for you? What's the learning that will make magic?
Well, then that's what we're talking about is the pain and leaning into it rather than blaming other people. And I love that. I'm like, repeat after me. When you do this,
Yeah.
I feel this way. I'm like, it's just as simple rather than you make me feel this. You did
Yeah.
this and you make me feel like that. And yeah, it feels like that. And I think that's ego too.
Mhm.
That's, outside yourself.
Right. And the more we can indirect it from anybody else, when I heard this, when this happened in the room, when this, and then all of a sudden it's not like, you right here, right now, you have to own this or whatever. No, you had your own experience at the same time, and I won't know what it is until you've said your side. But the minute you hear it, and it's like, I felt like a little child that was now being punished by his father. Well, why are you showing up as my father? Well, we'll figure that out later. But what were you feeling at the same time? And now you at least can have that empathy and say, oh, okay, I felt that before. My dad did that to me too. And then you can decompose it. And then it's like, okay, that energy should be projected at my dad, but I'd love a container where you can hear it for me. And now I'm hearing a version of your experience that had something with your dad too. And now you can be empathic to me instead of now directing this dad anger. It's now like, fuck, you felt it too. Well, how did it make you feel in your heart? How did you, now all of a sudden it's this beautifully empathic opening of this pain and everybody's crying and you're healing it.
Yes, and that's the problem, and probably why the divorce rates are so high is that people do blame their partners for how they feel rather
Mm-hmm,
than realizing that it's all a mirror. I mean,
mm-hmm,
our whole life is a mirror for what's going on here.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And why wouldn't our intimate relationships be even more so?
mm-hmm. And we didn't talk about it with the 3 month relationship contract, but they're already, I would consider, because I was designing this around the Living Your Light community, but the Living Your Light community has three things: self-responsibility, no blame of anyone else, no being a victim. There's something happening here for you, whether you like it or not. Accountability. How do I deal with that energy? How do I deal with triggers? And they'd have to have some kind of triggers training. I want to take you up to the edge of your trigger on a Zoom call or with a group of people in a safe space where somebody can pull you back down and see how that feels. So the minute you know, like, I'm going 0 to 9,000 in this second, you now have a tool. I gotta breathe. This is scaring the shit out of me. I'm terrified. I put my hand up and I start to back off, and I buy myself that minute. Hold on. And now all of a sudden you've got that space. You're not in the arena in fighting the dragon or the tiger. You're now like, okay, I can't talk about this right now. I need to talk to you tomorrow about this, but something's here and I'm going to deal with it.
But as you talk about that, it's the same with leaning into the ascension process too.
It is. It
It's
all is.
yes, and that there are triggers coming up, but what's behind it? What needs to be healed? And that's the same thing with the relationship container, and
Mm-hmm,
everything around us mirrors what is going on, what is unhealed,
mm-hmm.
and what's going on in our head.
And if we can, from our experience of going into those hard energies, give tools to other people, that is the most powerful tool. People aren't going to want to learn it because it's going to mean going right up to your edge and just looking at it, but acknowledging that that's you. It's not some bad part of you or some demon in you or whatever. That's you that's really, really hurt and wounded. Breathe, which is the ascension process stuff. Go get grounded, go do meditation, all this kind of stuff, but breathe. And now here's the crazy part. That could be your lineage trauma and epigenetic shit. And it could be your mom's in 3, 10, 12 generations back. But you came here born. Shamanism teaches this with the medicine to heal all of that. And in most cases, your parents, your lineage before failed over and over and over again. And they didn't even have a chance because the whole experience of 3D has been to keep people controlled and stuck. But the minute you can have a tool and you can say, fuck, I am really scared, and sit here and not, and maybe cry and maybe be sad or whatever, but say, I'm really scared and admit it rather than trying to protect yourself and just slice and jab everybody around you, you're going to be like, oh, my child's trusting me. He's listening to me for this moment. What the frick? Something changed. And that's the ascension process. Once you can trust your inner child and your adult self, your adult self has all the tools to protect this child, but he got abandoned back at age 3 because mom and dad shouted at him and nobody could protect him. And now in ascension, you're getting back to that innocence. I want to be that inner child. I want to have that fun and play, and I don't want to be so adult, but my adult has a sword, my adult has rage, my adult has all these tools, and he just didn't know how to use them.
Oh, and it's all about looking at your energy and being aware instead of being cut off. Put your head back on your body
Mm-hmm.
and walk around and notice what you feel inside, not what the world tells you to feel, or not focusing on what other people are feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that's play. That is amazing. And noticing how your frequencies interact with other frequencies and, you
Mm-hmm.
know, in such a subtle way. But it's taking, you know, in this process,
Mm-hmm.
in the ascension process, and I like that, the ascension and in intimate relationships, taking it, those feelings that come up, the intensity that come up as a chance to see what's behind it and heal.
Mm-hmm. And where else are you going to open yourself is to somebody you're being intimate with, you're being sexual with, you're being naked with. And that's going to be sometimes the first time that somebody's going to see your inner demons, your inner darkness, your wound's going to come out. You're going to cry during sex, you're going to whatever. But if you can't share that, most weddings, or marriages, you don't even feel safe enough to do that. So is that really a deep, intimate bond? Or is that something on paper that forced you into this shameful thing so you could have sex with someone or make kids, which is what religion turns it into?
Again, selling. I mean, people get married and the photography ad extra zeros on it, you know, and then oh, they're a couple. They're going to want a house now, and then they got to buy a minivan, and then you know have kids
Exploiter.
and
Exploiter.
expanding the population, spending more money because you know how much kids cost.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, you know, where do you authentically stop?
Mm-hmm.
Stop the brainwashing, stop buying into comparing yourself to people on social media, and
Mm-hmm.
really take the time to know you. What are your feelings?
Mm-hmm.
What, you know, and not looking at triggers as an, you know, as a bad thing or being embarrassed because of our childhood traumas
Mm-hmm.
or our transgenerational traumas that are, you know, being embarrassed, like, and not talking about it.
Right. And that's how we all got trapped and we all got stuck. And somebody's got to be the paradigm shifter, and that's us.
Ugh, yes, yes, and some of us are leading the way in the process, and I don't mean that in an egoic way because it ain't easy.
No.
And I don't know where I'm going. And I feel like Alice in Wonderland most of the time too. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I'm this small, I'm this big, what you know, I'm like, you
Mm-hmm.
know, I'm on this trip, you
Right.
know, and then at night I'm dreaming, I'm like all over and astro traveling and you know,
Mm-hmm.
and um yeah, and I
Because you're
yeah,
transforming the world. You've got a role that's willing to insert your knowledge and your awareness from the current 3D experience into a bunch of energetic beings that haven't even been able to be on the density of this planet for millennia because it got so low. You're the boots on the field saying, holy shit, we got to change love here and we got to change sexuality here and we got to get new perspectives. And you're going to those meetings and saying, okay, here's the only way this is going to work, right? Because
yeah,
nobody's
but
going to accept it.
and then we get cut off, but that's why we're talking about this stuff and this is why we're connecting, you
Mm-hmm.
know, we're on the same time zone, but we're far from each other, you know, and
It's
that's
time
why
for that to change. Keep going.
yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I'd love to get involved in a retreat or something like that. And I've been dreaming about that too. I'm like, what's going to transpire here? And
Well, as soon as the world opens up, I'll be all over that. We'll create something beautiful and we'll get
oh,
people to come and just open. And the people that want to do this, it's not about shame and guilt. There's going to be people that are up here and dealing with the really intense stuff. And there's going to be people that are like, oh, wait and see how that turns out. Because this new way hasn't existed on this planet for
yeah, and
millennia.
that's the advice I want to give people. If you feel like you're getting pulled all over like lean in and don't be afraid to like reach out to me, to Paul.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, and get on the forums and, you know, and talk and see what other people are having to say, just like getting on with Paul today. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it feels like I'm like walking, slogging through the week and it's only Thursday. And then I get on and Paul's like, oh my gosh, the energy. And I'm like, oh, it's not me. I'm
You're
not alone.
following. Yeah.
And I think a lot of times in my life, being an empath and a healer and having these sensitivities, I felt like an outsider.
Mm-hmm. You're
And
different.
then people like when I have insights or psychic abilities, and as a kid, you just say it and then you get shut down for it.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's hard and like I mentioned before, I'm like I went through a series where um I was embarrassed of my gifts. And now with the divine feminine coming up and being afraid too, I'm like, oh, that's why I'm embarrassed of my gifts. Because
Mhm.
I guess gifts in past lives meant a death
Get
sentence.
killed, yeah.
Yep.
Well, and even things like being open about talking about sexuality, open about talking about relationship. We're talking at the heart of everybody's wounds. And we're going to create a container that allows people to go with other people that are accountable and self-responsible and start to look at these things. And you're going to welcome people into your life. It's going to feel right to have this container and to go back to the community and say, fuck, I'm fucked and I couldn't talk to her and all this kind of stuff. Guess what? That's going to be your most life-changing work.
When
Because
we, yeah, when we tell the truth
absolutely.
about what we're experiencing and allow ourselves to see and experience the truth,
Mm-hmm.
there is such a sense of freedom
Mm-hmm.
and healing and real connection.
And if you're okay to share that in a circle of 20 other people, I'm going to bet at least 30% of the group has that exact same thing, and they're going to be add to it, they're going to speak to their version of the experience, and you're going to all have the answers for each other. But where do we collect to do that? Where do we go on forums? Where do we go to places where we get vulnerable enough that people can help us or give feedback or hold us accountable? Geez, you're talking really bad about yourself. What are you saying that for? Really just be positive for a minute. And here's your wounding is, yeah, you got all your self-esteem taken away, and you can't even start the healing until you have some value to yourself. Relationship will beam that mirror on you in an instant, and it will be super hot and sunshiny. The sex may be good and all this kind of shit, but if you can't deal with whatever shows up, you're going to crash and burn again.
I know, and I just see the emptiness in the world where people, try to keep like in their relationship that's so hollow,
Mm-hmm.
and they try to build that, that curb appeal. Just
Mm-hmm.
like on social media where like and I think the most beautiful things are when people are real and talk about their painful experiences. So, and that connects us.
Mm-hmm.
And that also connects to our humanity
Mm-hmm.
and, in embracing that we're not perfect.
And the biggest key thing, like I even look back at my marriage, is people don't grow at the same rate. And if you bond to a person and you expect that they're going to give you all your lessons and you're going to fix things with one person in your life, it was never meant to be that way. That's what religion and all this control has done, is pick one for the rest of your life that's going to help you deal with it. And you're shamed as hell to have a divorce. And now you're going through 6 things. Well, what if you could say, like in the Celtic culture, okay, at the Samhain or whatever, you can basically renew your marriage contract or not. Is this working out? Is the other person doing the work? And instead of saying F you and take half and all this kind of stuff, everybody stays independent. It's like, I'm moving over here while I'm doing my work. Go over here. I don't not love you anymore. I shared all this beautiful stuff. Maybe I had kids with you or whatever, and you're going to have to find a way to support the kids. But the rest is like, I need to have those other experiences to kind of grind up against and say, okay, this wasn't working out. My partner couldn't do this because they were just as afraid of the same thing. Now all of a sudden you get 2 or 3 different relationships instead of having divorces in the middle of them, those 3 months relationship containers or whatever. You're doing your work. And then all of a sudden your ex is like your love again, because it's like, fuck, they have their shit figured out, but it was me that had a problem. We don't allow that space. How many people get remarried after 20 years because now all of a sudden they see their partner in a new light and they did some healing?
Well,
It's
and
fucked
yeah,
up. Go ahead.
yeah, that the partner triggered your stuff, and then, like you
You
said, you
couldn't take
step
it.
back and like, but if you're in the same house, it just goes round and round and round. But if you step back and do that, it might come full circle again if they do their healing too. And
Mm-hmm.
I am a true believer that everybody is placed in our lives for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And but it
And
doesn't mean we need to marry with them and spend the
mhm,
rest of our lives with them either.
mhm. And the root of ascension is unconditional love. What is marriage? Conditional love.
And what I believe love is letting people be exactly where and who they are.
Yep. and it's going to be gritty and messy and blah, 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 all the way through, right? And if you acknowledge that and say nobody's bad and lean into everything that shows up, you're going to get a gift. And that's what I teach. That's what you teach. We're trying to show people back to accepting whatever shitty stuff shows up, because you don't know what's 10 back in your lineage and is scaring the hell out of you, and you never even had a physical experience to explain why you're freaked about it. Like, I have fear of police and fear of government and military, and I can go back to past lives and I can say lots of people in my lineage had their houses stolen, they were killed right there, they had all their money, their wife raped. Yeah, you can't trust any of those because, well, I didn't have personal experiences like that, but it sits in my system all the time. I got to pay my bills on time. I got to pay the tax man. I got to be careful at the stoplight because there's a police car beside me. Where the fuck did that all come from? That's lineage trauma for you right there.
Yeah,
Past lives.
and if you notice, listeners and Paul, that it's all coming up right now.
Everything. No
And
choice.
we may not know exactly where it comes from, or it comes from a multitude of places because it came down from your lineage and you played it out, some of the trauma in your own life.
Mhm.
Um, Speaking of what's not yours.
Mhm.
And yeah, it does get confusing, but don't overthink it. Don't do the why, and don't judge yourself for it.
Mhm. If anything, right now, it's the opportunity to let the energy pass through your body because it was a lesson, but you took it as a rule and you took it as a trauma, when now it means nothing. Your great uncle learned this thing way back when out of it, but he didn't release it, and it stayed as a fear in your epigenetic lineage. Now you're experiencing it. So really, it's just breathing, relaxing, feeling the emotions that show up. Don't have to understand it. You don't have to know the past life story. You don't need to do any of that stuff. Just let it go, surrender. And that's the magic right now. But it's coming in such magnitude 10 waves. All you can do is do the emotion now sometimes, in the salt bath and the drink lots of water.
Well, and yoga and
Yep.
Reiki and like the healing, and like I said, like in the ritual helps me put it in context too, even though it's very metaphoric and uh,
Mm-hmm.
and it's an expression of it.
Mm-hmm. And
And so many ways
ultimately,
to do that, yeah.
if it doesn't have to mean anything to you. We get so much in the struggle and we have to fucking pay for this thing in the past. It means nothing. It
Front
just happened.
that's frontal lobe. Why? What? It's all these questions. And I always say that why, like, why am I feeling this?
Mm-hmm.
Judgment. Well, they did this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going to protect my heart. I'm going to disconnect from my emotions because
Mm-hmm.
the world out here isn't safe. But really, you need to be working on your energy in the world inside you.
And it's all for you. And anything you're holding on to is literally tearing your arms off, if you know it or not. You're going to have to accept a lot of shit that looks really dirty and messy, and losing your house and having a divorce and blah, blah, blah. The quicker you can say it happened to teach me, I forgive and I love, then it just passes through you. And then the charge goes away. And now all of a sudden it's like, okay, I'm free.
Yeah, I think of those like emotions as like waves. If you
Mm-hmm.
sit with them,
Mm-hmm.
it'll eventually dissipate. But if you shove it down,
Mm-hmm.
it's just going to pile up on top of one another.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I want to be cognizant of time. We're coming up on an hour and a half here. So
Yes.
let's start to wind down.
Paul, you and I could go and talk, and I'm sure
All
we
day.
will again. And Paul's going to be on my podcast. We're going to record next week. So that'll probably come out like first or second week of December. But listeners, you'll know because we'll post it on
Our Facebook
Paul's,
pages.
Facebook. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Um, there's so much to talk about. There's so much to share. There's so much underneath. And really, all we want to do is get it out there so that other people are aware of it, and then they can make a choice. And it's not like, oh, you got to do this. You got to do the sacred sexuality. You got to do the 3 months relationship contract. This stuff feels so good in our heart, and it's a way out of the old way. So we talk a lot about it and we get excited about it, but it's going to scare the shit out of people. but just take it easy. It's just like, oh, that could be interesting, but go sit with the butts for a while, go whatever. And then one day you're going to say, holy fuck, or you're going to see a bunch of people that have went through it and there's lights, they're going to be shining and they're excited. And they're going to say, fuck, I'm going to try. And then they get excited and then magic happens because we're healing our own wounds at the same time as everybody else is healing theirs. And this is just as gritty for us, but we know that the leaning into that gritty and if we start to get back to pleasure and having that release as part of the relationship and other things, it can smooth out so much of the bumps, like makeup sex and all this kind of stuff. No, you're literally flushing your system out of all the fucking bullshit that came out of your system, and you're just like, and you just need to wash it away.
Freedom.
And
that is true freedom. It's not having, millions of dollars. It's not having those things. It's having that peace and healing within you.
it's your self-love. It's your going back to the safety of who you are. And I can't give that to you. You can't give that to them. That is found in faith with your inner child. And then magic happens. They're like, I trust you. Let's go play. Yep. So, okay, where can people find you there, AnDrea? And we'll close off.
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook, AnDrea Atherton, and Soulfire Healing Arts on Instagram.
Beautiful. Okay.
Yep. And don't forget to listen to the podcast again, Love Anarchy, and you can listen to that on any podcast platform.
Mm-hmm. I tune in on Apple. I'm sure it's on the Google one.
Yep, it's on Spotify. Yep.
Beautiful. Okay. Well, I'm sure it's going to be amazing on our next one because they've both been amazing so far. So looking forward to that. And put questions down below, everybody. This is going to be up on YouTube. I'll send you a copy if that's something you want, or whatever.
I'll paste it. I'll put it on my Facebook page too. Yeah.
Beautiful. So I thank you. This was amazing. We just bubble and
as always, Paul. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you. And thank you to everybody that listened. And tune in a week or so on the Love Anarchy podcast. And if there's any questions, or we'll start coming up with some other ideas. I'd love to have that 3-month relationship contract. We'll rough it out and have a live and maybe pull a few people in that have had this or a similar experience or want that experience, and what would be the fears, what would be the concerns, and just get people talking about it, because that's where the glow is, right?
Exactly.
So beautiful. Well, I'm blessed by everyone in attendance, especially yourself, AnDrea, and I look forward to the next one.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Beautiful. You have a great night. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Have a good one.